Well, by now you've seen the thumbnail, you know what this is about. And hopefully you can relate to the rest of us who are going to be on this stream today, because you've probably had to make the same decisions and go through the same crowdfunding conundrums that we're here to talk about today. What does it take for you to pull the trigger and crowdfund that item and potentially wait 12 to 18 months for the item to show up at your door, potentially forgetting it, having it show up and go, oh crap, where am I going to put this thing? Okay, maybe I'm just speaking for myself. Maybe the rest of you are a little bit more organized and know exactly where everything goes in your collection. But with that, I'd like to welcome everybody to this edition of the Toy Connections online live stream, or TKO, and broadcasting to you on this fine Sunday, or maybe it's Monday if you're on the other part of the world. It might be early, it might be lunchtime, but whatever. We thank you all for joining us. And we've got a wonderful panel worth of guests today. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring them on screen one by one. And I'm going to start by bringing in my first guest, who I was very glad to get to meet him and talk backstage for a couple minutes before the show started. We managed to catch him on an off day. He normally streams every Tuesday on Toy Anxiety Destination Programming. And if you haven't subscribed to that channel, the link is in the description below. He's here because he knows that this is where the fun begins. Ain't that right, Craig?
Hello. Hi, Ken.
So I give you that red carpet thing and I get, hi, Ken. How's it going, my cop?
I love it. I can start over.
No,
we're live. No, thank you so much. That was a really that was a nice introduction. I only wish my own co-hosts gave me such accolades.
Well, I was talking to one of your co-hosts, and I promised I'd give him this this particular entrance. So.
You know, it's funny. I was such a huge wrestling fan. I had very mixed feelings when Goldberg became such a popular wrestler back in 1997, 1998, because all these people that normally were ignoring me in elementary and middle school, now, all of a sudden now, they wanted to talk to me. And asked
they wondered if you were related.
It was like, every day for like 3 years. Is
he your dad? Is he your uncle?
I wanted to be like, it's actually a pretty common last name. Like, you don't go around asking everybody with the last name Smith if, I don't know, Will Smith is their dad or whatever. I was just like, come on. But it's okay. I really appreciate you having me on the show here.
Hope you didn't mind me busting your balls about that introduction. No, I just realized, you know what? I would normally say that to Dole, but I realized we've known each other for about 5 minutes. So here I am busting your balls right away. Say what?
No, it's all good. It's all good.
Awesome. Well, you know what? We've got a couple other friends here backstage. You know them before from, I'm talking to the crowd here. You know them because they've been on here before. I always ask them to weigh in on stuff. And this gentleman knows every time a new crowdfunding project comes up, we talk about it all day long. His link is also in the description below. Adam from Highly Articulated. Welcome back, my friend.
Hey, Ken. Glad to be back. I'm really excited that I don't have to be the funny one this time. With Craig here, we've got that covered. So
that's now the pressure is really on. Okay, I'll come up with some fun bits for the group.
Well, you're normally used to seeing these names typing in the chat and pulling up our comments, and now you just get to talk to us in real time.
I know. It's like, wow, you guys should be really impressed.
It's all good. Love the Ghostbusters poster in the background, though.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, I got my Ghostbusters hoodie on today. There it is. Got my poster. I'm ready. I'm ready for Ghostbusters talk. Not that that's what we're here for, but
there was a Proton pack that was crowdfunded a while ago, and I think you got one.
It was a very successful crowdfund.
Mm-hmm. There we go. I can think of one that might not be successful, but we'll talk about that a little bit later on. Darn it. It might have to do a little bit with that entrance that I just gave Craig. So, all right. And this other gentleman here has joined us graciously this morning/afternoon, even though he was streaming for 5 full hours last night. One of the hardest working individuals I've met on YouTube. He's back here. Oz from Ozstradamus Toyz. Buddy, how are you, my friend?
Good morning/afternoon, everybody. Proud to be here, Ken. Thank you. And Craig, it's a pleasure to meet you, sir. Adam, long time no see, right?
Absolutely. It's literally been hours.
Yep.
Welcome back from 12 hours ago. So I got a confession to make. Ken was out drinking like he was 25 years old again last night. He's on very, very short sleep. That's why I'm talking about myself in the third person, because I'm saying bad boy, bad Ken. But I will say, when you wake up in the morning and you're not feeling that great, Advil extra strength liquid gel is your best friend. Pop an extra one and try to get something to eat, even if your stomach is rejecting it. Then try to caffeinate yourself after you've dealt with this the not so terrible hangover. But I wisened up over the years. It's like when I drink beer, get as much water in your system as possible and don't stop. Even if you got to take a piss all night long, just don't stop, because you'll thank yourself in the morning. It's better to be on short sleep than be on a hangover. So
Good. Now we know. That's good. That's good to know. I hope the people are listening. I don't know how to do any of those things. I don't drink very often, but when I do, like, drink twice a year, it's usually bad for everybody involved. So,
well, yeah, okay. You can tell us a story if you like. We got a little bit of time today, unless that's it.
no, I mean, I just, I don't know. I just let loose and probably say things I shouldn't say. And I'm not a bully. Sometimes people drink and they just get really mean. It's not like that. It's just more, I don't know.
I
Whatever.
bet that's Ken.
Yeah. That one hit
It's
close.
just nasty. Just calling people out for stuff that happened years and years ago.
Yeah.
Just you, Adam. Just you.
Just like old grudges and resentments coming right to the surface.
Yeah, it's like when you claimed that item in the auction 5 seconds before me with a $1 higher bid. I don't even remember the figure, but I saw your name. So.
You told me the price would never go down, and I should definitely spend that much on that toy.
My bad.
Yeah, we've kind of enabled each other to buy Super 7 stuff. So,
well, don't do that. That's a horrible investment.
Yeah, I went to Adam for confirmation bias about whether I should get a TMNT Super 7, and he came back to me for confirmation bias about Thundercat Super 7. And, well...
Joke's on you. I didn't buy any Thundercat.
You bought one.
Yeah, that's true.
All right. Let's say a quick hello to the chat and get this thing going. Payne's Toy Samples. We got Rick Something, Ozstradamus in 2 places at once. Who else have we got? We got Pop O Loco. We've got Quip. Good Game Props and Collectibles. All right. Highly articulated. Also in 2 places at once. On Ryu 83, Flash 739, Largo's Lair, my man. We got Chris Johnston, talking to him earlier. Gaz, our all-star moderator. We got Pickle D. We got AI Collectibles. And who did I miss? Oh, no, I didn't miss him yet. Anthony Romo. Scroll down a little bit, Ken. There you go. And gosh, who else is in the chat? Oh, Crash is here. We were just chatting earlier too. Chat's jumped on me. I hate StreamYard. Well, sorry, I love StreamYard. Don't let StreamYard hear me say that I don't like them. We got Nolan, Rhea Black, and okay, I think we're at the bottom of the chat. Wow. All right. Thank you all for joining us. Gentlemen, I know crowdfunding can be a little bit on the polarizing side, the ethics behind it and all that. But what I thought we'd do today is enter the mind of the collector and talk a little bit about what causes you to crowdfund something, what causes you to kind of pull away from it relative to your needs in a collection. Maybe price is the detractor, whether or not it's overpriced or you just don't want to spend that much, or you were ambushed, like you were trying to buy something else and all of a sudden a $500 crowdfund lands on your lap. Sorry, I'm just spitballing my own thoughts here. Let's ask the actual questions that I wrote down for us to discuss. All right, so what actually causes you to crowdfund a project? And maybe you can speak from your own experience. Let's go clockwise. Craig, let's start with you, buddy.
Well, there's a lot of factors for me. I mean, I personally like the crowdfunding platforms in theory, right? Like if what is being told to us, which is like, if you kind of have to go based on the reasoning behind them that is given to us by like the toy companies, right? Because like this all started, crowdfunding, crowdsourcing, Kickstarter type stuff. That it's kind of like, it's not really a new thing anymore. And for a long time, especially like the world of toys, it was like a really interesting and unique way for independent toy makers to create these really great products or figures or customs or whatever. And obviously Hasbro started with, well, actually Hasbro didn't start this, but I think was Mattel the first major one with the Castle Grayskull back in, God, whenever that was.
It was like 2010 or 2011, but that was before they actually called it a Kickstarter. I think they said it was pre-orders, and then they got a bunch of interest, and I'm not sure whether how much money, or if they took any money, or whether they just had like expressions of interest and people placing pre-orders so that they could say, well, all right, we need to order this much. And there was the whole cardboard prototype that wasn't a real prototype because they didn't even have budget to do that. So in an ad hoc way, you can say it was Mattel, but I tend to go back to the Jabba Sail Barge as the first like fully realized project. Right.
Well, all of us as collectors know that like it's just different than it used to be. Like it just is. So when Hasbro says there's no way we could have produced this sail barge and have it sitting in retail, like I tend to agree with that. Right. Like it's just huge. It's whatever, 4 feet long and costs $500 and whatever. So if I can get behind the crowdfunding platform, and I like them for the most part, I think all the projects have been really fun. I've backed a lot of them, if not most of them. Even stuff that is not 100% in my, my wheelhouse, only because I think it's good for the collecting community to rally around a project. And the excitement of getting, unfortunately, I think with Haslab and stuff like that is it was originally pitched as these are like dream projects, like Jabba Sail Barge, dream project, right? Like a fully wearable 1-to-1 scale proton pack, dream project. Skystriker, that's not a dream project. I still backed it. I sold it before I opened it, but I got caught up in the hype of just being like, well, I'm a pretty optimistic and positive person by nature. So I'm like, this is too huge for the G.I. Joe collectors. I got to help out in any way that I can. Right. So I don't know. Like I've had my disappointments. There's been some Star Wars stuff that did not go very well. Stuff that I was really like, I really, people who watch Toy Anxiety know I was a Black Series completist for years. And I would be lying to say that the failure of the,
Rancor?
The Rancor, the letdown I had from that, like deflated my want and my need to be a Black Series collector. Like it actually had a very adverse effect on me the way that all went down. So, I don't even have I answered your question. What did you ask?
I asked Bret Hart or Shawn Michaels, and you said something about
Shawn Michaels. That's not even a question. Sorry, you're in Canada. Bret Hart. Sorry, it's all good. I waver.
It's all good. It's all good. No, I'm still here. I just got to wipe the tears away a little bit because I had high hopes for meeting one of my podcasting heroes.
Oh my God!
He said like something totally blasphemous. But anyway, we all get over things. We just got to mature, grow up. It takes Ken about 10 seconds to fully mature into adulthood, and we're back, and the tears are completely wiped away.
There you go. Bret Hart's too bitter for me these days. I don't like when the old wrestlers get bitter. I like the ones that are just like, that was a different generation, things change. But anyways, long story short, I do like crowdfunding projects. I don't think they've all been home runs. I think there's still a lot of room for improvement as far as the way that they roll these things out. But as far as like looking at what's been successful and what hasn't been and the way these things go, I can't really figure it out. Like there's been times where like I'm sure we'll talk about the Nitro arena at some point. Like in my head, I was like, oh, this is a home run. This is going to fund the first day. And it's struggling a lot. So, but overall, I do like crowdfunding. If it truly is the only way we're going to get a Razor Crest, then I want a Razor Crest more than I want to like, rant and rave about my integrity. Because I have none.
We love you anyway.
Thank you. Not when it comes to toys. I have integrity in real life.
Okay.
Okay.
We forgive you.
Thank you.
Sort of. Adam, what causes you to click crowdfund that project relative to your collecting needs and etc.?
I mean, that's just it. I mean, if the value's there, if sort of I guess if I perceive the value to be there and it's an item that I want, then I'll back it. And if it's an item that I don't need in my collection or don't see the sort of offering as being worth what the price tag is, ultimately I won't back it. But just like Craig, I'm kind of I like that it exists, because if we wouldn't get these things without it, then what's the big deal? To me, I kind of look at it like they've given a different name to a pre-order that's going to take longer than normal. What's the difference? It doesn't, the Kickstarter platform is different, when you're talking about Kickstarter, because you're actually donating to a project, and if they don't deliver anything, you're just out of your money, which doesn't happen often, but when it does, I mean, it is what.
Are you though? They don't actually collect if it doesn't fund, right?
No, if they fund, they can fund and never deliver you anything.
Oh, okay, yeah, that has happened. Not very often, but yes, I can think.
Whereas with
one or two projects,
whether it's Mattel or Hasbro or whatever, if they fund a project and it still doesn't get delivered, you'll get your money back. Like it's not the same platform. It's a pre-order. Like, let's be honest, it's just a big, expensive, long-term pre-order, and that's fine with me. I mean, I want it. Here's my money. I'll sit and wait, and it is what it is. But like I said, it really comes down to, is it something that I really want in my collection? And if it is, great. And if not, no big deal. No skin off my back, right? The Nitro Arena. I'm not a big wrestling guy, as you know, Ken. Not really even on my radar, but I thought too, like Craig said, like there's enough. I mean, you guys talk about wrestling enough that I figured there's enough interest for a project like this. But
yeah, I always got to apologize to you, Adam, every time. Like the minute Craig and I started talking Bret Hart versus Shawn Michaels, the chat lit up, because we have this thing, Craig, where every stream I do gets sidetracked into wrestling. Sure. And then the chat kind of piles in, and then I go sidetracked, and it's like the topic could literally be something like what to buy your wife on Valentine's Day, and somehow we'll be talking about anything from the Montreal Screwjob to AEW to the Monday Night Wars to 80s wrestling to freaking Bruno Sammartino, and I'll be like, what was I supposed to get my wife for Valentine's Day again? And it's like that's kind of what we do. Anyway, sorry, Adam, didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that was pretty much it. I mean, I like them. I like that it exists as a platform. I've backed a few Kickstarters. I've backed a few, Haslabs. It's just, if these dream projects can come to reality because of this platform, great. I'm all for it.
I'm gonna go poo poo.
Did everyone hear that?
No.
Not at all. Not at all.
Oz, how do you edit something out of your stream again?
Let me give you the quick course as opposed to like the 3.5 hour learning curve I had to do last night.
Well, no, thank you for that tremendous bit of insight as usual, Adam. Always, as you know, a lot of times, hey, when the Skystriker came active, I talked to you pretty much every day. When the His Tank came active, I talked to you pretty much every day.
When that went live, I thought it was gonna back like instantly. I thought, the price point is good. This is a cool product. I didn't anticipate the pushback that there was gonna be, and I didn't anticipate that it would take as long as it did to get all the way there. So I think I know sort of how Craig's feeling about the Nitro Arena. Like it seems like a no-brainer, but
right. And I think one key difference though, like for non-wrestling fans, I think the thing that works against there's two things working against the arena. Or there's like 5 things. But it's kind of interesting from a toy perspective. Like one, wrestling figure collectors they're like their own weird world subset of collectors. And there are plenty of people who want to buy every figure that is ever released of every guy, multiple versions. They don't care about world building. They don't care about having a big ring and all that. So that's one thing. Price point, $400 is a lot. And the figures that are coming with it, I think everybody kind of assumes, well, they're going to make those anyway. Like they're not going to not make a Scott Steiner figure if this doesn't, so people kind of feel like you know, with the new Gen Arena, there was like the Doink figure, and it was like something that, ooh, this might not ever make it to retail. This might be our only opportunity.
Yeah. I had to pay extra to get a much older Doink
Right.
figure, and then they didn't release one for years. So yeah, you're absolutely right.
And then the third thing, sorry, I don't want to take up Oz's time here. But the third thing is WCW itself is like it's like a niche of a niche of a niche, right? Like especially like the popularity of WCW was a very short period of time. And it has its hardcore fans and like it's, you know, huge nostalgia thing, but like if you were born in like 2003 and you're a hardcore wrestling fan, you might not know what it is or care about it at all. So I would equate it to like if Marvel Legends put out a new you know, Haslab, or maybe this kind of was what worked against the Ghost Rider, where it was like it's not like Galactus where it's like every comic book fan and toy collector wants a Galactus, like done, obviously. But like when you get into like, oh, the Ghost Rider, from what I understand, because I'm not a Marvel aficionado, but it was like, you know, that car from a modern run. It's not necessarily like every single collector has been dying for this Charger. I don't know. So it's almost like with a Haslab, how many boxes does it check? And if it doesn't check every box, you're automatically at risk.
Yeah. And they went, you know, the new Gen Ring was like 250, and then this is 400 US. So there's also like, there are obviously other reasons why that is. It's not like it's not like it just jumped for the sake of a jump. It's a different layout, different, you know, it's got lights, like a lot of lights. So, but anyway, that's another reason for it. And like you said, with WCW, you know, the main driver of that is people who want a Scott Steiner figure. And I said this on Mega J's channel, but like Scott Steiner, like he'll move the needle for hardcore fans and for people who are fans of that era. But like you said, if you were born in 2003 and your favorite wrestler is John Cena or Roman Reigns, you're not going to buy a Scott Steiner, right? Or if you're from the golden age of wrestling and you only care about the 80s characters, you remember Scott Steiner with the Steiner brothers. You don't remember Big Papa Pump. But anyway, sorry, Oz, again, we went totally sidetracked on wrestling like we always do. It's twice in the first 20 minutes we went sidetracked on wrestling.
I'll stop.
No, don't stop. Don't you dare.
Look, we'll get back to it again because I like wrestling too. And, you know, that project definitely means something. But, you know, when it comes to these crowdfunding things, it's the passion and the fan base because that's where your money's at. And if there's just not enough fans of a particular thing, it's not really going to back. You got to have the passion and the excitement behind it. And, you know, there's a difference between a dream project like Haslab or a Kickstarter, you know, like AWOC. Fortunately, there are different ways that you can approach each. But I'm more likely to get behind a new IP than to help back, you know, like Craig had mentioned, helping back a project that's not exactly in my wheelhouse just to see it made. Whereas I'd like to back a new IP because now I've helped create something. Like I helped bring this project to life. You know, using the Skystriker for an example, you know, I think Impossible Pie even mentioned it before that this was something that already existed and they were just bringing it back. To me, that doesn't exactly say
it was better.
It was better. It was better. You know, it's certainly better. Ken's review of it was great, and especially getting to see it on the deck of the flag. I mean, that makes you want to go run out and buy. Well, Craig knows. You go out and you buy a flag for your Skystriker now.
I literally did.
Yeah.
And then but I agree. I mean, I agree with everything you're saying. I think one last thing, and I'll go back to you, is like one of the other issues though with the Skystriker specifically is like it's very evident that the retro O-ring style figures are not a priority for Hasbro at all. So what gets excited for me for any toy line is, you know, it's not just, oh, I'm going to back this project. It's, I'm going to back this project, and 2 months later, there's going to be another one, and they're going to do a full rollout of all these retro characters. Like, they haven't even taught, I don't think they've revealed a retro figure in the last year.
No. What was...
Unless
last
it
one
goes
was Duke and Cobra Commander, right?
But unless it goes with a Transformer crossover, like with
Right. Yeah.
right, then they'll put
Yeah.
Stalker in with Bumblebee, Ozstriker. I got to get that right. Yeah,
That to me was kind of a pointless reveal too. It's like, why? Just give him Hound, for Christ's sake. Give him Hound.
Hound
Why?
should be the vamp, right?
Yeah.
And there's
'cause it's the G.
there's also a really peculiar thing happening in toys right now where it kind of seems like a lot of the hardcore G.I. Joe fans love Classified and are excited about Classified, and they've wanted 6-inch detailed articulated figures their entire life. Where with Star Wars fans, they don't. The vintage collection fans hate Black Series collectors, and Black Series collectors aren't real toy collectors. So they don't really have a dog in the hunt. They are. I told you when I quit collecting Black Series, it felt like I escaped Scientology. Like I'm seeing everything in like I'm breathing fresh air for the first time.
Well, you sold Classified as well for a while, so
I did, but then I got back in because it's like, the absence makes the heart, whatever that dumb phrase is, grow fonder, stronger. It does something.
Anyway,
Not only
40
that, Classifieds are getting better, whereas Black Series is still kind of just staying the same.
So Black Series got better
like
when
they haven't improved anything.
Yeah,
Black Series, it's those points of articulation. Sometimes you're missing the thigh cut. Like I'll get it to fill a character gap if I like the character, but like I'll look at it and I'll look at the Classified or a Marvel Legends figure. Right? Yeah, you can do Ewoks. Yeah. Anyway, 40 people watching. Click that like button and check the description below for everybody's channels. Oz, Highly Articulated, Craig, all in there. Oh, Craig, I forgot to put your second channel in the description, the YHS one, or as I call it, the non-dole.
The non-dole, yeah, it's where we escape dole. No, I mean, well, that's like the original. That's still the. It was a weird, peculiar thing that happened where we started doing Toy Anxiety on the main YHS channel, and because of the way YouTube works, all of our non-toy content was basically being buried. So we kind of had to split up the channels. But yeah, no,
you know what? All my wrestling content, like you said about wrestling fans being their own thing, all my wrestling content gets completely buried.
Yeah.
Like I could literally do a video like everything you want to know about Hulk Hogan. It'll get like 50 views. And then my Toy Traders thing at the G.I. Joe tour. I did a Toy Traders has left with like 37 or 38,000 views, and I'm sitting there. I'm like, I just turned the camera on and went like this and narrated over top, but I put in like 1/10 the effort. Unless I do LJN old school wrestling, then it'll get the same views as everything else.
Right.
But Anyway, sorry, all this analytic stuff.
No, yeah, I mean, we're constantly fighting with the algorithm, and it's not fun. And but it was a really good piece of advice I got from Geek Dad early on, which was, don't try to have a channel that is everything. It's a losing battle. So
that's why they made Geek Dad Life too because he said that he was always getting lower views on his TV stuff, right? Like if you look when I did House of the Dragon with Sergeant Slaughter's daughter, and Kayla Silva and Rick something, who's actually in the chat right now, that TKO stream has like half the views of my usual ones, right? So yeah. Anyway, look at that. Payne's managed to find your other.
Thank you.
Your other. Yeah. Anyway, sorry. Did you have anything else to add about that, Oz? About what causes you to back a crowdfund project?
Not really. I mean, just got to be passionate about it. Right now, everybody knows I love dinos, and yes, Defenders of Eden, Armies of Ashmore. If you haven't checked it out, go see it. Yeah,
bigger figures too, like 8 inches tall.
10 inches, like up to 10.
Some are up to 10. Yeah, so might look good next to the Thane from AWOC, Animal Warriors.
They
figures.
Do.
Right.
They look amazing.
Right. Well, I mean, we've talked about what gets you to back a crowdfunding project, but I'd like to ask the question now, like when we'll go back to Craig on this one. What causes you not to back it? What causes you to say, nope, not this time, no way? Like what's...
If it's like a robot that turns into something, I won't back it. Or like a dinosaur that turns into a robot.
That's twice Craig today.
You know what?
Cheers,
I'm not
bro.
gonna lie. I'm never really intrigued. I've never cared about Transformers at all. But sometimes when I'm at Target or Walmart, some of the stuff in like the classic packaging, like the 1984 movie stuff, looks really cool.
86 movie.
Isn't that the worst when somebody gets a fact wrong and you're like, "Do I do it? Do I correct them?"
Actually,
Yeah. Actually, it was 1986. It was originally scheduled to be 1985, but there was a. Anyways,
there's
I
a
totally-
conflict, and
Yeah,
unfortunately,
I totally just did that to you because I get that in my comments all the time.
that's fine.
You know.
That's fine.
Yeah.
No, in all seriousness, what gets me? If it's a property I don't collect or engage with, I'm probably not going to back it. But I will say there is that part of me that wants to be part of the. You want to be part of it. Part of it is fear of missing out. Like you want to be in the, with that day where it backs and they start unlocking all the extra tiers. Like you want to kind of be part of it, right? So I mean,
let's be honest, Craig. You also enjoy reselling everything that you get. So
can I address
Skystriker.
Can I address this? That
Go
is
for it.
that is fake news. I just want to
is
put that
it
out
though?
there.
What's going on with Eternia, Craig?
Oh, I got rid of that. Yeah, I rattled it off.
Not even keep Modi and sell the rest.
No, I don't care. I don't care. I can't. Here's the thing. A lot of this originated during the pandemic where it was like sheer boredom, where I was like, literally, Origins started coming out, and I was like, I've never really cared about He-Man. Let me binge watch the entire animated series so I have a reason to start buying Origins. So I have kind of had to back off a little bit. A lot of it has to do with space, right? Like, I started thinking about, I had like, I don't know, 60 or 70 Origins figures. It's taking up an entire case in the toy room. And then I'm already thinking about Eternia, like where exactly is this going to live, right? And I didn't want to sell the flag. I really didn't, but it was really, I could not walk in the toy room, and having cats, I couldn't have it anywhere else. Otherwise there'd be like a 20-pound cat sleeping on the deck of the flag every night.
Yeah.
That could make some cool photo opportunities.
Yeah, it would have been big. I would have probably got like 800 likes on Instagram. So it would have been a lot of value.
Speaking of the Eternia, a few weeks ago, I actually saw a complete one at a toy show here in Vancouver.
Cool.
They put the repro track on there, but they had the seller had the original track. And of course, who shows up at the show? Ryan Dole, right? And I'm like, buddy, there's an Eternia back there. Is that yours? He's like, no, what? And he goes and looks at it. And he's like, it's okay. I already got one. I'm like, yeah. I guess go like that. Dole was hilarious when he came up to the booth at the toy show. I'm like talking to somebody, and in the corner of my eye, there's somebody like giving me like the wrestling stare down. And that must have gone on for like, at first I thought he was just browsing or looking at something. And I'm just like, about 20 seconds in, I'm just like, is this guy staring me down? And I look over, right? And he's not wearing his usual signature Ryan Dole hat. It's Sunday. It's the second day of the toy show. I'm at my booth. I'm tired as hell. And suddenly I just hear, Jen. And I'm like, oh my God, Dole. I like completely spaced out. Like, obviously I know what he looks like, right? But like, I'm not used to like the wrestling stare down from him. So
Ryan's great. He's if I could figure out a way to monetize our phone conversations, we'd probably be like, between the two of us, there will be within a 10-minute conversation. I'm like, we have said 9 of the most insane things that a human being could come up with. Dole's great, but he doesn't back crowdfund. So is he even really a toy collector? If you think about it?
Them fighting words. I think he's still asleep too. Like he wakes up late on the weekends. So
dude, there's no way he saw those. No, I think if it's not, like for instance, if G.I. Joe were to do another retro like classic playset, I don't know. It would have to be something like the Defiant or something. Because I had the Defiant as a kid, and that's like my holy grail G.I. Joe item that I would love to get again one day. But if now I did get the Hiss tank, the classified Hiss tank, and I'm really excited about that. But yeah, I don't know. It has to get me excited about toys. Like if it pushes the right, there might be a day where I back a Transformers, Haslab. If it for whatever reason gets me really excited about the collecting opportunities, then I'll be there. Price can be, price is definitely part of it though. Like that's a lot of money. $400 or $500 doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what kind of financial situation you're in. That's,
it's a lot, but
that's that's 2 cartons of eggs and some milk.
In today's pricing,
a little quart of milk and 2 cartons of eggs. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Well, Adam, what causes you to say no way to a project other than it's Transformers? I'll let Ken waste his money.
Well, I mean that's kind of it, right? Like if it's not a property, just like Craig, if it's not a property that I'm really passionate about, it's a pretty easy. It's pretty easy for me to not throw hundreds of dollars at it. It's space, it's money, it's IP. For me as a Canadian too, and Ken, this very well. Every once in a while there's a project that looks really, really cool, and what you realize is the price that it's sort of advertised at is not even close to what we're going to have to pay to get it.
And the exchange rate never works out. It's like the global exchange rate will tell you one thing, and the exchange rate you actually get dinged. I'm like, what? I should have just got 2 and saved on shipping,
Every Canadian collector puts the US dollar price into the Google bar and says, how many is this in Canadian dollars? And they ignorance is bliss. You don't actually check what the credit card rate is. You check what Google tells you the rate is. And you're like, that doesn't seem so bad. And then you add 3% or 4% on top of that.
Or 10 conveniently.
Yeah. But then there's borders. There's the shipping, the taxes, the duties, the fees, that you'll get dinged from FedEx or whoever. And so for me, when a Kickstarter tells me how much the shipping is going to be at, and I've talked with some Kickstarter creators where they go, yeah, we kept shipping intentionally low because we don't want to sort of eliminate people that would not back it because, the shipping to get it is going to be more than the actual toy. And then others where they're like, we're not going to list shipping. That'll be in, the backer kit or whatever. I'm like, no, thanks. I'm not backing something that I don't know what I'm paying for. So in cases like that, I'll often kind of do the like, hey, $10, no reward. And then, if they do a backer kit and they're like, oh yeah, actually shipping's okay or whatever, then I'll consider it. But it's just, there's more layers, there's more hoops to jump through for international collectors, because toy collecting is very US centric. Everything is sort of designed to be sort of shipped out of the US, and so there is an aspect for international collectors that kind of changes the landscape a little bit. But yeah, I mean, if it's a new Ghost Rider, if it's a lightsaber that I I'm not interested. If it's a Transformer, I just don't. I mean, I wouldn't have the space for it, first of all, because those are like big Transformers too. They're not just a 6-inch scale. Well, they are.
It's called shelving in the garage. That's where my G1 Fortress Maximus is.
I hate that. Right. You know that I hate that. I don't store many toys. If it doesn't fit on a shelf, I'm getting rid of it, because it's never gonna make it back on the shelf. I don't care what anybody says. Oh, I rotate my stuff, and no, you don't. You're so full of it. Nobody does that. Nobody has time to do that. We're too busy chasing pre-orders and ordering more stuff to go back and find
rather than appreciating what the hell we actually have in our collection.
Exactly. So yeah, it's sort of all of the above. It's all of the above. It's price, it's space, it's IP.
All right. Fair enough. Right.
And reputation. Like, I think, like, if I know the Barge is amazing, and I know the Razor Crest is amazing. So when they put out another vintage collection playset or vehicle, like, even if it's like, if it is the Ghost, right? Like, even if I'm not a huge Rebels fan, which I thought it was going to be the Ghost, but now I'm thinking it's not going to be. We can talk about that later maybe, but like, I'm going to back it because I know the level of detail that's going to be there. There was no way I could have been the biggest Obi-Wan Kenobi fan in the world and thought Reva was the greatest character of all time. There was no way I was ever going to back that lightsaber because it felt like it felt very much like I felt bad for Hasbro. That felt like a something that came down from Lucasfilm. Like this will be this will be the next Haslab.
Yep.
And
that's exactly it, I think.
I was there at Star Wars Celebration when they announced it, and it was like crickets. It was real. I felt so bad for those guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
But
they're like,
does
they
it
wanted to promote their
spin?
new IP rather than give you, like, I don't know, something a little more recognizable.
Right.
Right. So, yeah. Oz, what about you? What gets you to say, no, not this time?
I mean, there's not much more that can be said about it. I mean, that's really it. Do I feel like the value is there for what they're offering or not? You know, Rancor, Star Wars in general. Huge fan of Star Wars. I don't collect them anymore. I haven't for years. But you see something like Jabba's sail barge or the Razor Crest, it makes you ready to jump back in because that is a showpiece. The Rancor itself, I don't even collect Black Series, but that massive Rancor looked beautiful. And you don't see the support behind it, and you're kind of like, well, is it worth my time and effort to hope that this is going to make it? And then they give you a literal bag of bones as like a stretch goal to entice you. I'm like, that is not happening, folks. I can go collect that in the woods. Like, there's no part of this that makes me want that more. Give me a Return of the Jedi Luke with like the lightsaber, like all this. Don't give me a Gamorrean guard that, hey, found its way to retail anyway. So guess that wasn't that big of a deal for a Haslab.
For whatever reason, they couldn't. I don't know why they couldn't do Ula or.
It's not couldn't. It's not couldn't. It's wouldn't.
Wouldn't. Okay.
Right.
Okay. Fair enough. Because that would have pushed it, right? Or Hot Slayer
No
Leia.
Ula, no Mula.
They wouldn't even give us underboob on the Goblin Queen, which is like a staple of the Goblin Queen. So we know they're not willing to take these risks anymore and do those kind of things. And you're talking about a dancer with a mesh bodysuit. They were all out, even though, heck, they did it perfectly fine back in the 90s when they got Ula out. You know, it was just like, okay, we're going to paint fishnets on green plastic. There doesn't have to be any detailing there. But that, I guess, comes down to the expectation of the detail in a Black Series figure. You know, people want it to be extra detailed, so that's not really going to work. But
I think the thing that backfires with that stuff too is the lack of transparency. Like all anybody really wants is Hasbro to be able to go, hey, there are certain things we'd like to do, but there's specific reasons above our head that we can't. Like they won't say, but they can't, like, working in a corporate environment, like there's just certain things they just can't say. Like
So
but
true.
I think like crowdfunding tiers, TIERS, not TEARS, which there's usually
not Ken's tiers.
There's usually plenty of both.
Plenty of both. I think those have completely backfired and are now more of a deterrent, especially like the early bird stuff. Like the early bird stuff is now like you're basically asking for your project to lose all momentum like a weekend. And part of it is on the collector. Like the collectors, because of the barge didn't have any tiers. It was just, this is it. It's $500. I think the early bird, like it was like if you order before a certain time, you got that book, which I thought the book was really cool, and I like having that. But now you have a situation where you roll out, you know, a product and you say it's X amount of dollars. You may or may not get more value with it. That creates confusion, and it's like a psychological thing for consumers. So now you're going, well, I'm going to wait and see. And if you're waiting, there's a really good chance a lot of other people are waiting, and then it just stays there. And then the longer it goes without the build, and then you start not hitting tiers, and all momentum is lost.
Yeah, and that's what's happening with the Nitro stage. Right now, right? And anyway, do you have anything else to add, Oz? Or
I was just going to piggyback off of that. Same thing with Engine of Vengeance. You know, Mega J and I did a live stream the night that, you know, okay, Kickstarter ends. Is this going to fund this amount to get the Kickstarter or not? And as we sat there, not only did we see it not make it by midnight, but then we watched it start to decline immediately. Because just like Craig was saying, the moment people will back for a early bird. And when that early bird's not met, now you're working backwards because people are like, well, if I'm not going to get that, I don't even want the rest of this project.
Yeah, like, you know, the Robbie Reyes all of a sudden, like, yeah, they tried to ad hoc it by saying, okay, we'll do a swappable head and all that. But I think what it is, it just goes back to what era were you a Ghost Rider fan? If you're mostly a Danny Ketch fan, right? And Robbie Reyes wasn't the one you grew up with, well, then the nostalgia just isn't quite there for you.
Right. Look, if you grew up with Robbie Reyes as your Ghost Rider, you're not even grown up yet.
No, not at all.
It's too fresh. It's too.
You're not collecting toys.
That kid does not have $400.
No.
Yeah, exactly. Your balls just dropped. You're not going pretty far from here.
Your paper route does not pay as much as you would need to cover that.
Wait, there paper kids still have paper routes?
Yeah.
Like, is that a thing anymore?
They deliver like PDFs of newspapers?
No, that's what they do now. They do affiliate marketing. Yeah.
Oh.
They airdrop. They go to a neighborhood and airdrop everybody.
Yeah. But again, it comes, you know, it comes down to what the licensor wants, right? Like, Craig, I think you're actually friends with Ryan Ting and Dan Yun, if I'm not mistaken, or at least you've had.
Yeah, they're like basically my two best friends in the world.
Don't let Jake and Dole hear you say.
They're sitting on Craig's couch waiting for him to finish up here so they can.
You know, it's really cool. Ryan and Dan have both been so kind, and I've been able to, you know, Ryan's been on our show a couple times. And like the thing is like when you're, this is another thing that I think people, it's really hard to educate and inform and like have collectors have an understanding of this, right? Like collectors, by and large, and this is just by observation, but they're insane and they don't know how the world works, or they refuse to acknowledge how it works. And I've fallen into this before as well.
I was gonna say I fall into it, but I know where you're going with it. So yeah.
When you're a marketing manager for a company, what is that? You're a mid to upper level, not even upper level. You're a manager. You're mid management, right? Or you're not even a manager. You're just on the marketing team. You become the face of these projects because you're on YouTube and you're on social media and stuff. But ultimately, when it comes to like product development and those decisions and pricing and all that, there are so many people involved, way above the pay grades of everybody that like you see. And especially like if you're like the social media person for Hasbro, like you're like, that's like one step above like the trash can.
You went trash can guy. I went mailroom guy.
Whatever. I don't know. By the way, all jobs are valuable and no one's lesser for whatever they do or don't do. All I'm saying is that I think the collectors assume that Ryan and Dan and Dwight sit in a room and go,
just the three of them.
And they go, that's it. How can we rip everybody off? And put the least amount of work into this. Like it's just like they work so hard. Call me a shill. I don't care. I happen to work for a very large corporation when I'm not doing all of this. And I know how things work. Literally nothing I say matters at work. I go off about stuff. I'm like, yeah, la, 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 la. Craig, those are great ideas.
There goes Craig again with his ideas.
There goes Craig with his ideas.
He runs the company.
Oh God, he's got another slideshow.
Get back to emptying the trash cans, Craig.
Exactly. Then get to the mailroom. You don't even work here. So I think it's really tough. I feel for people in their position because like they want these projects to be successful. Like it's not like a fun thing for them when their passion project is like falling apart in real time. And every single human being who had any kind of vested interest or no interest at all has something to say about it. And then people like us get on YouTube and rant and rave about it for 3 hours. But there are people who also like do root against them because they're sociopaths or whatever. So it's just like, as long as we don't dive into that world, like if we can be objective when we talk about things, then it's all good. But
did you guys get the sense, now this is a bit of a tangent because we're talking about them. Did you guys get a sense though, in terms of the energy level that they had for Engine of Vengeance, that they weren't 100%? And this is purely speculative. We can only, it just felt like their hearts weren't in it. And they were kind of like, they kind of knew this one was the one that wasn't quite enough there for what they were asking.
I imagine what happens at Hasbro with, the different teams and all like that is just like Craig said, it's the team members all sitting in a round table in a room, and then like every 2 to 3 hours, like a holographic image of Mickey Mouse shows up with like a gun, and they're like, what ideas do you have for me for our project, our next project? We need to hear it now.
Right.
That sounds great. Go with it. And it's like, this is garbage. And they're like, I don't want to hear that. Print my money.
Yeah.
I think it's a Hasbro thing too. Like, I think like Mattel, it seems like the Mattel Creations crowdfunding projects seem to be a little bit more in the realm of, hey, this is a big swing.
Yeah.
And there's no guarantee that this is going to happen. We hope it does, like with Eternia or with this Nitro arena and that kind of stuff. I think with Hasbro, there's a little bit more of, Hasbro is the biggest toy company in the world. And I do understand people who have like, I don't know, moral issues or, issues with the way that these things are
sure
being, and that's fine. But then also it's like you're screaming into the wind, because it's like, what are you going to do other than, and there are people who go out and make their own toys, and that's great. But this is something that doesn't get talked about too much. But as a collector, I prefer, this is going to sound insane. This sounds like it goes against like the notion of being a collector, but I would rather have a licensed product that doesn't look as good as a really amazing looking unlicensed product.
I'm actually with you. The knockoff stuff just doesn't.
And I don't know why that is. Maybe
me neither.
Maybe that's just like consumerism being driven into my brain.
Maybe we really are shills. We've been convinced that like we need the actual branded thing. For me, at least, it kind of goes back to the fact that like I have been into Lego for a long time, like my whole life. Mm-hmm. And when I see a building block and it doesn't have the logo stamped on the top, I'm like, this is trash.
Right.
It doesn't. This is not what I want. This is not what I need. I've bought, I know people that 3D print stuff, so I'll buy the odd sort of thing for a diorama or a weapon or whatever to kind of put with a figure. But yeah, like even down to like custom figures, as much as I appreciate them for what they are and how much work goes into them and on and on and on. I would like, a big G.I. Joe fan, I would rather wait for Hasbro to make, Ripcord than have somebody repaint a figure and do some part swap and put a third party sort of accessory set on it. And I don't know why, because I mean, the custom stuff looks better sometimes. But there's something in the back of my head. I agree that it's like, I just know this isn't really Ripcord, but Ripcord doesn't exist anyway. So none of it's really Ripcord. It's all fake,
It's kind of like the idea of, okay, so everybody knows, huge Motu fan, right? I'm more willing to support Mattel and buy actual Masters of the Universe stuff because it's supporting the brand. It's showing the brand that the demand is there. Whereas if I buy from a third-party customizer or, something of that nature, I'm helping support this local artist and whatever they're doing, and that's fantastic, but it doesn't help show the demand to the big guy who is the one that owns the licensing, which if I want more of this, they need to know that I want more of this in a way.
I completely agree with that. And I think that is like a really strong dividing line, especially like in toy collecting communities and stuff, because there is an adversarial relationship between some collectors and the companies that they and I don't know if it boils down to like an entitlement thing or an anger thing or a frustration thing or whatever, but there is kind of this notion of, oh, I can get these figures I want, and I will get them better and cheaper, and I won't have to give Big Bad Toy Company or there's nothing to do with Big Bad Toy Store, okay? The Big Bad Toy Company, my money, and that is, and again, that's everybody's individual choice, right? I would rather wait, like, and I don't do that with character. I know somebody mentioned, I think Ken mentioned earlier, like filling character gaps. Like, I've known collectors who are like, hey, I really need this specific version of Luke Skywalker from The Last Jedi, but they didn't make it in Black Series and they didn't make it in Vintage Collection. So I'm going to buy the Funko Pop. Like, that doesn't matter to me. Like, I'd rather wait until Hasbro makes it or just not have it and then complain about not having it. I just want something to complain about, I think.
Well, yeah, because you got to have your sad comments too. Why didn't you make this? You knew I wanted it. You
Right.
watch my streams. Why didn't you make this?
But I think these are all valid points, and I think Adam made good points. Like, I like these brands. Like, Mattel invented Masters of the Universe. Hasbro, like, these major toy companies owned these properties. It's a little bit different with Star Wars and Marvel because there's a lot more red tape and bureaucracy involved, especially on the Lucasfilm side of things. But I mean, as a hardcore Ghostbusters fan, which is also, I mean, that's always going to be my number one. It hasn't always been easy because there were long periods of time where it felt like a mismanaged brand. Luckily, it's gotten way better, and the people who are running Ghostbusters are great, and Hasbro is the ideal toy company for those types of products. So I want to support it. Like, somebody else is going to make an Egon figure that maybe looks better, but like, I agree with you want to show that the demand is there.
Even though sometimes it's not. But yeah.
But that's the other thing. Ghostbusters is like a quote unquote big franchise that is somehow the smallest of all big franchises. So
yeah.
But I think, as far as customs or third party or whatever, and I think you guys will all agree with me when I say this, like, collect what you want, and it's like, I can only speak for myself, but like I said, I think you guys agree with me that, like, well, Ken, I know that you do like third party Transformer stuff because there's characters or versions that only exist in those lines. And they've been going for decades, right? There's been third party Transformers for decades, but for me, it's I collect lines of toys. So a custom or a third party thing doesn't feel like it's in that line. It feels like it supplements that line. So
right.
I don't know. That's just how I collect. Collect what you love. Collect what makes you happy. If it doesn't make you happy, don't buy it. So if you don't want a Hasbro product, don't buy a Hasbro product. But as is said within sort of the circle of people that we know, don't yuck other people's yum. Like, just let people buy what they want to buy and sort of, have the joy of new toys when they want it, however that sort of comes to be, I guess. Because it is about fun, right? We're still trying to, stay connected to our youth, and we're trying to play with our toys because it's fun. We're not like, I don't think there's a toy collector in the world that's like, I'm only buying these out of spite because I hated toys as a kid. Like, that just doesn't make any sense. So
be a really unique perspective if that existed, though.
I want to meet that guy because I need to talk with them.
Yeah, absolutely.
What would he buy? I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah. So the one thing I did also want to add to this conversation is when you look at a crowdfund campaign, whether it's at the end or whether it's at the beginning of the project, do you count the stretch goals as part of the value, or do you evaluate it based on the base tier? How do you feel at the end? Oz, I think this one I'll start with you.
Wait a minute there. I got distracted by a question here in the chat by Man of Action. What was that question again there?
Oh, is there a question I need to pull up?
Yeah, he was just mentioning basically Hasbro is given a pass for shoddy product. I mean, not everything's going to be gangbusters.
I actually collect mostly vintage. Anyway,
Yeah.
so yeah, I don't.
I'm certainly not saying that. I don't think Hasbro gets a pass.
Yeah, and I
that's
know you
not
well
my-
enough, Adam, that I would never have assumed that.
Yeah,
But-
no, I mean I'm not a completist on any line. I'll pass on
Right.
things that I just don't think.
If they don't appeal, you move past it. I
Mhm.
mean, that's the whole thing. Nobody's
Yeah.
given a pass. You're
Yeah, I
either
mean,
gonna
there are shelf
hate-
warmers. Like I will go to the wrestling aisle and I'll see like the same Seth Rollins figure over and over, and yeah, I mean, you know, that's telling me that the item's not selling or not selling relative to how much were made. But stretch goals, Oz, do you consider them, like when you funded something and it comes with a bunch of stretch goals and you look back at the price, do you count that, or do you like as part of the value, or do you kind of go, no, I evaluate it on the base tier?
So this is probably the hottest topic when it comes to crowd funds, being those stretch goals, because this is always the debate you're going to have. You know, it's you're told a base price, and this is the product that base price is for. Now, we're going to entice you by adding these extras.
Mm.
So by definition there, that base price should be for the core product that you are trying to fund.
Mhm.
Now, getting extras, does that help the value? Of course it does. We're
Mhm.
going to give you more, but we're not going to raise the price. It's always adding extra value to it. You know, the big thing about that is more or less like, are you just waiting on projects to see what? I mean, again, to bring up Engine of Vengeance is one of those ones where everybody was waiting to see what these stretch goals were going to be, especially after the early bird failed. Because now it's like, all right, so we were already promised if it backs within this amount of time, we're getting 2 figures at roughly about $25 in value per figure out of a, oh God, what was that, $350 at the time? So what other figures are they now going to give me to help entice this $350 knockoff Charger? And, you know, if I'm going to back a project, I kind of want to know what it is I'm backing from the start. That's my core value. Everything else kind of helps disperse the cost, and I feel like I got a better value in the end. But you should look at it as the price is for that main product. That's what you should be banking on, the main product. I mean, Craig, I know you backing the Proton Pack. Were you backing the Proton Pack, or were you backing the little slime add-ons and everything else that came extra from it?
Right. No, it was only the Proton Pack. And that's such a good call out too, because like one of the unique things about the Ghostbusters stretch goals is that they weren't that great. And I think like they were little added bonuses that have some value add, but are not going to be make or break for anybody. Like if I would have gotten the Proton Pack without the whatever, the Stay Puft Marshmallow attachment, which literally I looked at it and went, oh, cool, I'm not displaying with it. So I think it's really tough though, because there's 2 things at play here. This gets, I love talking about this stuff. And I think that there's a psychological consumer versus producer kind of thing here, because we know from talking to Ryan, we had Ryan Ting on to talk we talked all about crowdfunding as well as just the Nitro Arena specifically. So the final price that they come up with for the crowdfund is based on the assumption that all of the stretch goals will be met. Right. So that is where they factor in the price. So for consumers, if you're one of those people who wants to stick it to the company, but you still want the product, the better value for you is to get all of the stretch goals unlocked. They are like, if the Nitro Arena hits 5,000 only, and they only send out 2 figures instead of 5, they're going to make more money off the project than they would have. So every goal that hits is a little bit less, bottom dollar for the company.
Yeah, it's less profit per unit.
Yeah. But I think that it's a psychological thing for fans, because there's this thing about what is fair when it comes to value, where even, okay, let's say you backed Eternia, right? Eternia didn't get the last
No,
stretch goal, right? Which figure was it?
Keklar.
The
Yeah.
Keklar, right? So those 9,000 people who got the Eternia, there's still the psychological knowledge of knowing, oh, it could have been a little bit more. We could have got that Keklar. And that, I think, affects people's decision making going forward. So kind of like mentioned earlier, like for me, it's the core item is the main thing. Like there shouldn't be a stretch goal that's so good that it makes you make the $500 investment, right?
Mhm.
They should all be added value, fun additions, but not the deciding factor. But I understand when you're making that investment, you want the more bang for your buck.
Right.
Hmm.
You know.
All right. About you,
that
Adam?
Well, I
Oh,
was
sorry.
gonna say that comment. I think this is like the best proof of where you need to look at where the value's at. Because the His Tank being the fastest funded, all stretch goals, everything, before everybody even really knew what all the stretch goals were going to be, this thing was getting backed fully.
Yeah, but I mean, without the electronics and everything,
Oh,
could it have been a retail item? I sometimes wonder.
Without
Right.
the electronics, it wouldn't be, in my mind, worth nearly all the value. Now, the funny part about that is how many people are going to display it with the lights on.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, sorry, Adam. Do you consider the stretch goals as part of your decision, or when you look back at a project? I mean, we've heard from Craig, we've heard of Oz. What's your thoughts on this?
No, I mean, good points being made for sure, and I mean, it's just sort of different aspects of the thing, and so much of this is we're talking about how these projects are marketed, right? Like, I agree that the value, like when you look at a a Kickstarter, whether it's a Kickstarters and crowdfunded seem to be a little bit different. They're sort of playing the same tune, but it's often a different thing. So if we're talking about crowdfunded like Haslab or Mattel Creations, right? There's the base offering, and for me, the base offering is what you're paying for, because on day one, nothing's unlocked, right? So it doesn't matter what the stretch goals are. So
Fair
for
enough.
me, I look at the base offering and I go, okay, is this base offering have a value that I think is in line with the price? And if it is, and it's a product that I want, then I will back it. Now, if it's not, if you're sort of looking at it and you're thinking like, okay, well, it's a cool product, but I don't really think that the dollar value is there. Then I would wait for the stretch goals, right, to incentivize me. But that's it's case by case. I really wanted that His Tank, so I backed it. And to be perfectly honest, a bunch of the stretch goals I'm going to sell off anyway because I don't care for them. I really want the His Tank. I really want the driver, and then the gunner, and then like the third version of that figure, whatever color it is that they're doing, I'll probably sell off. That vintage Cobra Commander, I'll probably sell off. I genuinely hope that they do a second run of them at retail, with a simpler Payne app and then no electronics, because I would love for more people to be able to get it at a better price point.
Yeah.
And for
Or Ramen Toy can just make us one. Ace, are you watching? You were texting me like an hour ago.
But I mean, how much cheaper would it be, right? Like looking at the Engine of Vengeance, that was $350, right? And everybody agreed that was too expensive. No disrespect to Ace, because he's way smaller numbers, way smaller company, so on and so forth. By the time, if I order that car, by the time it lands at my front door, it's gonna be the same price, because of shipping and logistics and stuff like that. It's gonna be. I mean,
it might be a bit less, but then you're not getting a figure, so it comes down to what, I don't know, like, and of course there's the early bird pricing and then the later pricing. So yeah.
But it's not far off, I guess. Let's say it's not far off.
Fair enough.
I think that the idea that like we've said, like the early bird, the stretch goals, all that kind of stuff, I think is really designed for the people that are on the fence, right? The people that are not quite there on day one, and it sort of incentivizes them to get it. But there's always going to be day one people that are going to back something, because value is it's believe it or not, it's subjective. If I'm not a Transformers guy and the Transformers thing is $150, that's not a crazy price point, but that's $150
The victory, the victory saber
Transformers.
is probably like, you know, you get two reasonable size figures there for $180. And when I look at stretch goals, though, one thing I wanted to share is I like to evaluate something on the base tier as well. But when you look at the deck here and you see all the figures lined up, it's hard. It's hard for me not to go and say, okay, well, I like that figure, I like that figure, I like that figure, like Flight Suit Scarlet, Night Force Ripcord, the Rio figure that came for Ace, you know, the Ramp Rat, right? Like, without, like, well, first off, three of the 7 figures we got were late campaign sort of like add-ons, right? And then we got the 2 stretch goals after that. If that hadn't happened, I would have just subjectively, like Adam is saying, had a much harder time backing the Skystriker, because like I'm sitting there going, well, I could buy a vintage Skystriker, but mind you, you're getting the failsafe figure, Rio, right? Or Wayne Ruthell, or whatever name you want to call him. That was kind of my main incentive to start thinking about the Skystriker. And then when they added the 3 figures near the end, and I'm like, I want that Ramp Rat, and then Scarlet got unlocked, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to pull my pledge on this one. That's kind of where I went. That's kind of where I went with this. Like, it's hard for me retroactively not to look at this and say, wow, I love the value that we got with all those figures. But in the middle of the campaign, my mind was playing gymnastics with me. Do I not? Do I not? That's why I thought it was important to ask this question. So
I think it's really tough too, for especially the Skystriker, right? And I think there's no doubt in my mind that there is a lot of complicated math that goes into deciding what the price point should be on some of the stuff. But also, like, there is some arbitrary, there's no doubt in my mind as well that there might be something where they go, oh, we could do this for 175, but all of our analytics show us that we can get away with 250 or whatever.
Yep.
That's a thing. Like, I saw some, by the way, the chat's on fire a little bit today.
I'm getting I keep looking back at it.
The conversation about the custom toys versus I just wanted to clarify one thing. Like, whatever you do is great. Like that's just like a personal. Like ramen toy, like incredible stuff. Like, there's no doubt about it. Every collector has to do, you make your own path. I go into this stuff knowing that everything's a cash grab. These are companies, every single thing is a crap. Whether when I buy a vintage collection figure, whether it's $10, $15, $20, or $25, the entire intent of the company making it is to make a profit. I think it's really hard with something like, I don't know the exact details, but I'm sure you guys can fill me in. The last Skystriker, whenever it came out, whatever it was, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, what was it, $40, $50, $60, whatever it was. I think that fundamentally the way that the inflation and pricing on everything in the world, across the board, in America, North America, Canada, wherever, everything is so much more expensive. And that is goes way beyond the toy industry. And that's a whole other discussion. I mean, but I think just this, I love the thing said earlier, like, value is subjective. Like,
yes, 100%.
These are want-based products. If you don't want it, don't buy it. If you do want it, buy it. Hopefully it's within your means, right? I guess
speaking of wanting or not wanting, I'm just going to throw this question out there. Like, we've talked a lot about the larger companies, and I know that, the chat's been on fire a little bit, and I'm just so you know, anybody in the chat, I'm not great with confrontation. So, like, it's hard for me to kind of go through polarizing topics like this. I'm not the most thick-skinned guy in the world, so anyway, why don't we talk a little bit about the fan-made independent Kickstarters? And I want to throw the question out there. Have any of you, like, I know AWOC for you, Adam, have any of you backed anything recently? Like, I don't know whether it's Armies of Ashmore or one of the O-ring products that are out there, or Savage Crucible, or the recent Biblical line. What do y'all think?
I've backed a bunch of them.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting here saying, like, you know, when I'm talking about, like, yeah, I love buying a G.I. Joe product from Hasbro and I don't really want to buy it from somebody else. I'm saying that as somebody that backed like the Skeletron stuff. And as somebody
that's why I wanted to touch on this, right?
Because to me, it's a different IP. They're not selling me a G.I. Joe figure, right? They're selling me a Skeletron product. So that's where that sort of like, so I'm not saying that I don't like small companies, right? I've got, you know, I've got the AWOC stuff. I've got Mythic Legions, which is not as small as it used to be.
Right. But in 2015, nobody knew about it, right? So, and now they've got this sort of like Legions Con thing going on. And if
you're putting out a cool product, I'll buy it. It is what it comes down to. And if it's something that I want, I'll buy it. It really is just, is the value there for me from my own personal perception. And that's all I'm saying, right? Like, I'm not saying that Hasbro isn't got better margin than the small guys, and that I don't respect the small guys for charging what they do, because I get it. They're not making as much money as
you're one of the biggest Animal Warriors of the Kingdom supporters, right? And this could almost be a second topic.
I try. We could switch. We could just go Animal Warriors of the Kingdom for the rest of the episode. I'm here for it.
Well, yeah, but I did want to touch on those particulars. So yeah, I mean, Craig, you backed any of the indie Kickstarters?
Gosh, I was trying to think. So not any. Okay, I haven't backed any of the Kickstarters. I mean, I do have some Mythic Legion stuff. I do have the Figure Obscura stuff.
What about Phantasm Toys though? Yeah, with their Ghostbusters.
Well, right, that's what I was gonna say. Literally, like, I was helping usher. Like, some of my best friends in the world are making custom toys. Tony Taylor, what he does with Phantasm Toys. Our good friend Tom Henry is doing this incredible line of 3 3/4 Ghostbusters vintage style toys. Stuff is amazing. It's absolutely amazing. I think the whole point we were trying to make earlier, without like the notion, Tony Taylor doesn't come out and go, buy my toy, it's better than anything Hasbro has ever made. Like, he just wants to make cool stuff. And if you like it, you buy it. I think it's that notion of us versus them. Look, toys are too expensive. The McFarlane Batwing, which by some of the reviews I've seen is not great, is $250. That feels like an arbitrary price because it's a direct.
The car is $60.
The car is $60 at Target. Well,
very polarizing, right? So
in theory, it's at Target. Eventually, it will be. But the direct-to-consumer gold label is $250. So,
to be fair, it has a gold label. So
the gold label means something. I'm not sure what it means. But I can't figure it out. I don't know why McFarlane toys are $20 and they come out like every 2 months and Target's full of them. Like, I don't know what kind of deal with the devil McFarlane has with what factory or whatever, but this is way off topic. So as far as backing in, you know what? We did a whole episode on the Bible figures and we had a lot of fun talking about it.
I did see that. Yeah. That was a good episode.
I backed them too.
I mean, they're cool. Like they're objectively cool, and like I can't wait to see them.
Definitely not for everybody.
Not for everybody, but they're toys, right? They're fun. I think our main complaint is we wanted more villains, more heels.
Everybody loves a good heel.
I had a bunch of dime store novels, dime store
Cowboys?
heroes. The Cowboys, I had a bunch of those, and. I think the long box hero stuff is really cool. There's so much amazing stuff out there. Like, it's
Fresh Monkey Fiction Santa line.
Yeah.
Monkey Fiction.
The one that was like the Big Bad Toy Store.
Yeah.
I want all of those.
Yeah.
Actually, this goes. Oh, sorry. Go for it.
Oh, I was just going to bring up with that toy line because we're touching on it. That Toy Collector's been doing a giveaway for that. They have an exclusive mail away. When's the last time you had a mail away figure?
Oh, the magazine?
Yeah.
The magazine, yeah.
Oh, I met that guy. The guy who does that magazine. He's
Blake,
great.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I need to get his books too.
Yes.
But yeah, I do think there's. I think with toys specifically, I think some of the arbitrary pricing is frustrating, and that's where that lack of transparency, comes in. But then again, the other side of my brain, my consumer brain, goes: if you are somebody who's into fashion, right? What makes one shirt cost $100 versus another shirt that costs $50 versus another one that costs $400? Same materials, possibly same factory. Also, I don't have the answer to that question. I don't know.
Yeah.
This hoodie was $20 on Amazon. So it's just
it's all arbitrary. Like, we base it on our experience, right? Like, and our experience is no behind the scenes stuff. Like, we can't tell you it costs this, therefore you should mark it up to blah. We just know I paid X for this in the past. Ooh, this one seems a little high. Do I want it badly enough? That's kind of where it goes, right? So yeah. Whew.
Yeah.
Sorry. Go ahead. Go, Craig.
No, I was just gonna say, I think that the reason why people get heated up is because this is about money, right? We all need money to live. It can be really hard to come by. Like, I've been in every financial situation imaginable, from not ramen toys, but ramen noodles for weeks on end to doing pretty well. And but it's really hard to put the hobby away when you can't financially support the hobby. There's been times in my life where I've made really bad I've been down to my last $300 or my last $100 and still went on a toy run, right?
Can you hear my kids screaming?
A little bit.
But
Okay,
it's
hold
fine.
on.
It's fine. I didn't want to say anything. So it's just like we are all so emotionally invested in the hobby, and it brings us so much joy and happiness that when something's in your mind overpriced, too expensive, it can and will be very frustrating. But as far as there's so many there's more people making cool custom toys now than ever before, and it's going to continue. And it's kind of like you guys were saying earlier, hopefully from that, like Oz was saying, you're supporting something that becomes a new IP and is not, like Mythic Legions, like maybe 10, 12 years ago was an independent toy brand, is now people are more excited about the Mythic Legions booth at Toylanta than anything happening there. Yeah.
The fans are very diehard. They're very loyal to it. I didn't get into Mythic Legions till closer to 2020, right? So I wished I got in a little bit earlier. There's some figures there. I think they were PowerCon exclusives, the original, the Adamon and Keltis figures, right? Like, I wished I could have gotten those. I tried asking Jeremy about those, and he's like, not likely. Jeremy Gerard, Mythic Legions brand manager. I tried asking him about it, and he's like, not likely though. You'll see those again. But I'm like, okay, fair enough.
Until the day you buy them, and then
until the day I just buy them on the secondary market. Yeah,
and then they'll get announced the next day.
Oz, which crowdfunding independent Kickstarters did you back?
Oh, well, coming down to that, I had to give a pass on Savage Crucible, but we all know I'm all about Armies of Ashmore right now. Been talking them up nonstop because I'm all about them. You're talking about an IP that's 65, it would be $70 per figure. Where I'm not willing to go spend $35 for a Marvel Legends figure. It's just that perceived value. To me,
it's all arbitrary, right?
This guy right here, first off, he's not producing millions of units. So of course the cost of his figures going to be much higher than something that Hasbro's putting out, because just doesn't have the resources to put out 100,000 figures or however many they're going to make. That's kind of the fun of Kickstarters, though, right? I mean, as we're all collectors, you know what it's like when you have that numbered collectible, when you get like a certificate that says 1 out of 300 or something like that. Being as a collector, we all know what that's like. When you look at these Kickstarters for the independent guys, you know exactly how many backers they have. So you know exactly.
So it comes back to the transparency thing that Craig was saying earlier. Like, there's some transparency on that level, or there is transparency on that level. So
we know that there's only going to be, and again, point out a big company compared to a little company, Mattel with Eternia. There's only going to be some 9,000 King Grayskulls out there, or not even, because it was like 5,000 or something when they hit that goal within the first week or so. There's only going to be that many of that particular Origins character out there. That's it. So you already know you're getting this numbered amount. When you back these Kickstarters, you really know where you're sitting at, how many of these figures are out there, and one of them is yours, or if you do an all in. So that's pretty cool, because again, now you're a part of something. And the hope is that it gains enough popularity that they can become like the next Mythic Legions.
Right.
You know, you want to see it continue. That's why you backed it in the first place. This isn't like your buddy who just made a mix CD and you bought one for like $3 from him on the corner, knowing he's never going to probably achieve his rap dream. But you know what? You supported him because he's your buddy. You know, that's not what this is. This is, you support these projects because you want to see that succeed and you want to see it continue. Again, Man of Action had pointed out in the chat, talking about, you know, the oh shoot, where was that comment? I got to scroll back up for it. But you know, he brought up a very good point, and it was on the tip of my tongue, and now I can't remember it. It was higher up than that.
Yeah, you can just read it out. I don't know how far back I can scroll on here, but you know, if you remember it, you can at least.
I was trying to scroll back to it, but you know, it's just one of these things where Hasbro bringing up a new IP. You know, guess what? Are you going to take a chance on something you don't know is going to work? They've got shareholders that they have to commit promises to because they are now a publicly traded company. So they've got to uphold those. And if they can't meet it with things that they know are going to sell, then they got to do stuff like lay off the employees and such. That's not fair to the employees. We've all been
not,
there.
and we saw what happened with Corey over, and everyone felt for him so much, right? At Hasbro.
Yeah, exactly. That sucks. That hurts. I'm not saying I'm gonna try to back a project to save somebody's job, because I wish they would think enough to have contingencies for that. But you know, it's one of these things where you really want to see every project succeed if you can, and they're not willing to gamble on something necessarily new not taking off. And that sucks, because there's plenty of great ideas that I'm sure people are sitting on in these companies that are just never going to see the light of day.
Right.
I wonder, I know that first Haslab board game project did like really, really well, but I think did the second one,
was it EverQuest? Was that the one, or something else? Anyway,
no, the first they did, so they've done two Haslabs for board games. The first one was Hero Quest, which crushed it.
Yeah.
And then the second one was Heroescape, and and that one
did do well, right?
Was like DOA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that kind of goes back to a point we kind of talked about earlier, which is I don't think they have enough data, and they won't for a couple of years, to really gain a great understanding of what makes these projects be absolute home runs versus, you know, DOA. And I think there's some, like, you could make some good guesses, right? Like, is it a popular brand? It is a dream project. Is it Galactus, Sentinel? I think there's also, like, look at the Sentinel. Like, if there's an army building potential, like, are people going to buy multiples? You know, Razor Crest at the height of the Mandalorian before season 2 dropped. Like, it was perfect timing. So that's why I'm really curious. Like, we know that Star Wars teased a new vintage collection Haslab, and sorry, I'm laughing at something else. We know Star Wars teased another Haslab, and May the 4th they have a stream this week. They
on May the 3rd.
On May the 3rd. May the 3rd be with you, which is like classic. This is Hasbro Star Wars stuff.
Yeah.
So I think they might announce it. If they don't announce it here, they'll announce it at Comic-Con. But I think this would be a good time to announce whatever it is. But like, I was sure it was going to be the Ghost, but I was also assuming that was based on thinking that we were going to see the Ghost and the Rebels crew in Mandalorian season 3.
I thought you guys confirmed that it was the Ewok village.
So this is the problem with having Ryan Dole on your.
Teddy bears everywhere.
He has said that so many times that a lot of listeners, new and old, either have forgotten that that was a joke or. I mean, he does that to me off. Like, I'll call him like, dude, we're gonna get this Haslab announcement because Ewok Village confirmed. I'm like, wait, no, it's not. Is
he just willing that into existence, though?
It's
Is there an aspect of
building the
his
hype.
personality that he just wants things to be real, so he just acts as though they are?
So look, there was some sort of tease like 6 months ago where they were like, you're gonna want this Endor bunker and this ATS.
Yeah.
That was like $15 at Ollie's, and now you can pay $80 to get a Chewbacca repaint.
Yeah.
I think they haven't done like they haven't tried a full-on play set yet, right?
No.
So I think an Ewok Village would kind of make sense.
Well,
But I think a Death Star would be more of a
Death
lot.
Star could be it, or they like the vehicles. They've seen success with that with the sail barge. They've seen success with the Razor Crest. It's the Return of the Jedi 40th anniversary. The shuttle Tidarium comes to mind. Like
they've mismanaged their Haslab so badly, though, that there's nothing that they could come out with that I'd be like, well, that's really out of left field. I'll be like, okay. Like, the ones we're talking about are the ones that would make sense, right? The Ewok Village on the 40th anniversary of Return of the Jedi. The Ghost, if we're going to see, in Ahsoka, we're going to see that whole crew, and that ship may come into play as well. Again, 40th anniversary, Shuttlecraft Tidarium. Sure, yeah, I could see that as well. It's a vehicle, do a vintage scale, do all the stuff. You could have different setups for it, so it could be like Palpatine's shuttlecraft, or it could be the Endor shuttlecraft, right? You could have different crews or whatever. It could come with an Endor landing pad or something. I don't know. You can do whatever you want.
Oh, that's actually a good call right there.
But they could come out of left field and be like, we're doing another lightsaber. People be like, what?
Right.
Luke's green lightsaber again.
Well, luckily when they did that tease a couple weeks ago, whatever that was, they did what was that? Oh, at Celebration. They did say it was going to be vintage collection.
Yeah.
Which is great.
A vintage collection lightsaber.
Right. Yeah. A small, it's scaled to a 3 3/4. I think
$350. Look at the detail.
Right. I personally think that price point, they want to keep it under $300. I think 250 feels like the winning price point, 250 to 300.
So then that limits what you can do too, right? So that's kind of, but I think we can all agree Star Wars really needs to have a successul Haslab.
They need a win
for their sort of.
What are they, 2 for 4 right now?
Yeah.
Well, the last two have failed, right?
The last two have failed, but because Razor Crest and Sail Barge went through, right?
True.
I think vintage. Yeah. I think the vintage collection fans are rabid and hungry enough for new product. I mean, what I thought it could be, I don't even know if I brought this up on Toy Anxiety, but I think the coolest thing they could do would be a Death Star playset modeled after the old Palatoy Death Star playset.
Oh, the cardboard based playset.
Yeah. Like
really
to do an updated plastic version of that with like the different, chambers and stuff. Because that touches on, that just checks a lot of those boxes we were talking about.
Absolutely. And if that succeeds, does that make this Year of the Playset 2.0?
Oh gosh. I did get a lot of play sets last year. I was able to knock out some holy grails, which was really fun. But no, because if it won't deliver till next year. So it'll be next year. So I think a Sandcrawler would be great. Like a big,
bigger, better one than they've ever done. Yeah.
Here's my problem with Ewok Village is like they've only put out a couple Ewoks in Vintage Collection, and like there's the like if they said it's an Ewok village and you get 8 Ewoks with it, now we're talking.
Totally.
But they
all
can't
about
do
it.
that and not at least put an Ewok or two in the base tier and then like do stretch goals.
Oh,
after
if
that,
it's an
right?
Ewok village, here's going to be your stretch goals. Ready? They're going to throw in Return of the Jedi Luke. It's just like mandatory on every, like there's so many of them.
The fireplace in the middle, that's got to be extra. That's got to be a stretch goal to itself.
Right.
You know, with the rotisserie for a 3.75-inch figure on top.
3PO on the little throne.
Right.
Yep.
It'll be all repacks. Like they'll probably put a speeder in there.
Yeah. Oh, this
the
one's
net trap with
a
bait.
scout trooper, but the scout trooper's painted differently.
Right.
than the last one.
Right.
A few extra specks of dust. I'm down.
No Ewoks. Yeah.
But I don't think it's going to be an Ewok village. I think it's going to be the Ghost or a Death Star, or maybe the ship Oz mentioned. Like that would be. Have they done that in like Legacy or Vintage Collection? I don't think they have.
Not in like a
Very long time.
As a matter of, Dole would probably remember better. I don't even think they reissued it with Power of the Force when they did Power of the Force and Power of the Jedi. So I think the last one that really would have come out would have been with Return of the Jedi or the original Kenner collection.
Let's see here. Oh, it looks like okay. Oh, you know what? It looks like they did one around. It's in the Attack of the Clones packaging.
Okay.
2002.
That's still been 20 years.
20 years. I wonder though if because like some people were guessing they might do an AT-AT, but you know they've done Vintage Collections AT-AT. I think it has to be something new for people to get really excited.
Yeah. Well,
So, yeah.
Adam mentioned a play set of that landing platform on Endor. That would be great, especially if it's paired with an AT-AT.
God, this is going to be so disappointing whenever
I know. Now we've built all this
insane.
hype in our minds, and we're going to be like, you gave us a bag of bones again. You
Another bag.
But it's
Cardboard backdrops and all that. Yeah.
But that's a big part of it, right? Like so many of these projects that we're talking about for Star Wars, like, okay, so the sail barge funded dream project, that's like so iconic. Everybody, you know, that scene, you know, Luke comes back and he's like full on the Jedi and he's doing his thing. Slave Leia, we won't talk about her, but slut, hey, no,
Hut
slave,
Slayer, not
slave,
the other one.
We'll let that one go, Adam.
Hut Slayer.
Slayer, Leia.
Nobody
Oh,
calls
man.
her that, so I can't. It doesn't
No.
come to
So
my
now you
ear.
can't unhear it.
No.
But that was a no-brainer. The Razor Crest Mando kind of reinvigorated Star Wars for a lot of people, right? Like, so that ship couldn't have been timed any better. And then they thought, well, we did it with Mando. Can we do it with Obi-Wan? No, you can't, because that series didn't have the same impact. You can't do the lightsaber. The Rancor, I think, was just bungled from the beginning. Like it was leaked. And then they their hand was forced. I think they did it at PulseCon because they were like, well, we may as well throw it out there now. And they didn't have a good model of it. They just had like the gray prototype of it. They never even showed the stretch goals were terrible. Like, again, I think they just mismanaged that thing so badly. There's so many good projects that they could do, whether it's the Ewok Village, whether it's the Ghost, whether it's an AT-AT, whether like all of these, we were all like, these will be so great. But so much of these, at least for the crowdsource stuff, right? For the Hasbro stuff, for the Mattel stuff, it has to hit hard on day one. People have to go like, yes, this is what we've been waiting for. This is what we want. You can't, the surprise can't be, here's a thing that you didn't expect.
Right. And if it is that, it has to be, you didn't expect it because you never thought we would do this. We're blowing your mind. But
that's the sail barge, right? People were like, oh my God, what is this? Right. So,
and then, but the odds of them being like, it's Bo-Katan's ship. And it's like, okay, there's plenty of Star Wars collectors who want that and are going to be excited about that. But if your announcement is deflating immediately, then you're going to, it's going to be, I can't wait.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
As somebody that's probably not going to buy a vintage collection Haslab, I can't wait because it's either going to be one or the other. It's either going to be like Star Wars, is back. They got this great project, or I genuinely expect that it's going to be really that's what
you came up with.
That's your big comeback to I don't know. There's something going on. Something's going on with Star Wars where they just keep missing the mark. They've come so close so many times. There's people in the chat that have sort of said, like, is Star Wars just like, is Star Wars with Hasbro, is it just kind of done? Like, is it? And I don't think it is. I just think there's just too much. There's too much meddling, I think.
Yes.
I think there's too many. There's too many chefs in that kitchen, and
it feels like it's from our perspective.
But there's too many memories of what it was. Like we all remember.
I don't know shit about anything. I'm just speculating. But
no, but I agree.
It's all we do around here.
I agree with you. Like we all remember what it was like to go to a toy store in 1999.
Yeah.
Right. So people are longing for those days across the board in the toy industry. But like with Hasbro Star Wars, it feels specifically frustrating.
Yeah.
Because there's not a kids focus action figure line at all. There's two collectors lines, and then there's kids lines that there's just not a lot.
It's three adult collector lines, because even when you look at it, the retro
the
and the vintage and Black Series,
right?
That's what they're pushing, and then they're like, we got these little Galaxy guys over here, Galaxy Quest. Take it or leave it.
The thing that's weird to me is like they're not announced. If they do announce it, well, even if they announce it now or Comic-Con, there's no active Star Wars media right now, which makes me think that it's going to be something from the original trilogy, because there's not like you saw the Razor Crest last week on Mandalorian, or you just saw the Rebels crew show up. Because I think Ahsoka is going to be huge, and I think there's a lot of people who are going to learn about the Rebels crew, but like it's still niche.
Yeah, Rebels felt like, even though it wasn't, but it felt like a cult hit. Like if you watched Rebels, you really liked it.
Right.
Yeah, if you didn't watch it, then you just completely like didn't know about it. It's like, oh, what's that? Is that other show after Clone Wars?
Right.
So
yeah. And if they put out a Ghost, then like here's they don't have any. There's no vintage collection Rebels characters though. So I feels like that.
You'd have to get the whole crew with the
right.
Or that makes sense as a
or you'd have to know that they were coming, right?
Right.
But they haven't been pipeline reveals or anything like that. So if they've been holding all those cards that close to their chest, again, this would be a mismanagement. Like if they're intending to do all those figures, and the Ghost is sort of like gonna be the place where you can put them all. If they don't tell people that, nobody's gonna buy the Ghost.
Right. And the Ghost is, for the people, like Ken was just saying, for the people who watched Rebels, that is an iconic ship, and it's got the other what is it, the Phantom, the other ship that comes out. But part of the whole Haslab thing is to capture a wide net. Plenty of people bought the Razor Crest who aren't even toy collectors. They just wanted a detailed Razor Crest to put on their shelf. So it's gonna suck. Whatever it is, it's not gonna be great. It's just like let's it like. You just got to go by your gut on these things.
But the four of us are typically pretty optimistic, pretty open to like whatever comes out. But I think it seems like we all agree that Star Wars, we're expecting disappointment and bad decision making from those lines.
I mean, I thought the N1 was going to be that. I thought they were going to do $150 N1 Haslab. So when they announced it as when they just announced it as a regular release, I was really
still $150.
Right. I was pleasantly surprised that okay, so it's not, because everybody knew it was going to be the Razor Crest, and I think the Rancor leaked, and then all the stuff you're talking about. So like nothing's leaked. Like Yak Face hasn't said, "Hey, this thing's coming." So
yeah. Well, anyway, 65 people in the chat. Press that like button, everybody. And speaking of things that I hope don't go to Haslab, even though it might, I do want to shout out one of the top tier patrons of the channel, Peter Johnny, for sending this over.
Cool.
I hope this is a regular. If they do this in classified, I hope it's a regular release and not a. Well, I mean, they've already got a Sergeant Slaughter in the Triple T like version 2 outfit, but yeah, if they do this, it doesn't have electronics like the his tank, or if it does, it's not going to be kind of the same light up thing. Like I can't imagine it being. So, maybe we'll show this on the channel at some point in time. I know I posted a Patreon video for those who did see it, and a channel members video, but for those who didn't, this will at some point make it onto the channel. Card back's not cut out, and neither are the flag points, unlike some of my ruined Transformers boxes that have side flaps missing, but get the art. So yeah, hopefully if they do make this, it's retail release of some sort. I know they haven't really done vehicles in the retail for regular retail releases for G.I. Joe Classified, unless you count the Ram Cycle or the Baroness Coil Bike. But yeah, gentlemen, any final parting words before I tell everyone to subscribe to your channels and check you all out? I mean, most of you probably already know Craig, or if you follow this channel often, you already know Adam and Oz. But any parting words, gentlemen?
No, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. This was a lot of fun.
This is it's a fun topic because it is a topic that people get pretty heated about, right?
Yeah. And you know what? If anyone in the chat was like offended by something that I said or anything, I do apologize for some of the polarizing nature of the way it might come across, because how we're talking here is like 4 friends talking over a beer or at the coffee table. Right. We're not trying to say that we're smarter than, somebody else, or, or we're silly for collecting this stuff or what. I mean,
we are. Look, let's be objective.
Look around
here.
me,
Let's be objective. If we're backing these things and we're buying all this stuff, this is ridiculous. Like, we don't need any of this stuff. So, I mean, I will preface any argument that I make or any of my opinions with like, this is absolute nonsense, because to anybody on the outside looking in, $30 is like a ridiculous price. So when you start getting into like backing all-ins on Kickstarters or backing Haslabs or Mattel Creations projects, like, it's absurd.
Do you guys?
I will 100%.
But not to me. To me, it's life.
do you guys do you find yourself confused about people who don't collect toys? Does it confuse you? Like,
it didn't used to. It used to be I was confused by myself, but then it just sunk in, and then I got confused when I start talking about toys, not realizing I'm talking to a non-collector. Then I get confused. Yes.
I don't know what they do with all their extra money.
Well, usually their houses are bigger. We were house sitting this nice house this week. Abby and I were watching some dogs. And I'm looking around this place and I'm going, oh, what I would do to the shelves that would be brought into this home.
Look at all these nice, clean walls with nothing on them.
Yeah. It's
Man of Action. I want to say thank you for that, because I don't know you, so I wasn't sure how it was coming across. K-Dog, I know you. He'll message me anyway and be like, if he thinks I'm wrong, he'll tell me I'm wrong. So I get that. But, thank you for some of the clarifications on here.
But I do
everybody's entitled to their opinion, and like I said, like, this is my opinion based on my experience and my perception of, like, the values of these things, and the how that's reflected in the prices of the things, and so on and so forth. Like, but buy what you like, and if it doesn't make sense, that's fine, because it doesn't make sense. We rationalize it and justify it to ourselves, but we're wrong. Like,
I mean, as a I collect more vintage than I collect modern, and I bounce back and forth, but vintage is always going to have my heart. And like, I'm trying to complete my vintage Star Wars line with the figures, and it's just like, there's no reason why some of these figures are hundreds of dollars. They made millions of them. I had a whole rant about this, about the blue snaggletooth on our channel. I was like, if it's so rare, how come every toy store I've ever been to has 2 of them?
Yeah.
And every booth at every toy show has but it's implanted in the collecting mindset. Like, this is rare, this is valuable. Like, it might be less available than, first release Chewbacca, but there's a lot of them out there. So you got to do a lot of rationalizing and a lot of like biting the bullet, but like, at the end of the day, it's what I love. So I'm gonna.
Yeah. And before we go, I do want to say, Articulated Chad, who you rebranded. I think you're gonna rename your channel to just It's Chad. But thank you for the $2 super chat here. And he is gonna have a Hooded Cobra Commander 788 on his live stream a little bit later on today, who I actually just did a recording with a couple of nights ago in advance of Cobra Convergence. So thank you again, Chad, for the super chat, and do check out Chad's channels. His car rants are beyond hilarious. So if you've seen those, definitely enjoy them. And Chad's been on this channel before too, in both a pre-produced fashion and on live stream. So I do appreciate that. Gentlemen, wow, this went really fast and was really fun. But thank you for this stream. Press that like button on your way out, folks. I'm so close to 3,000 subscribers. And when I hit the 3,000, I'm at 2,999.
I was gonna say you're like, yeah.
Yeah, I'm in the, like, it probably says 2.99 on the public thing, but it's actually 2,999 is literally the number on the back on the back end of my analytics.
Let me make sure I'm subscribed. I'm probably not. There it is.
Okay, Craig.
There you go.
Did I just hit 3,000?
I think you did.
Did I just hit 3,000? All right, awesome. Checking. Did it go through 3,001? So I guess you must have subscribed twice there, Craig. What I will say is that I was prepping a special video for 3,000 subscribers, and now I should be able to share it before the end of the week. So this is the video that's going to give me a second to pull it up. All right. Here it is. Come on. There it is. That's my 3,000 subscriber celebration video. Has it come up yet?
It's supposed to be 1984.
Yeah, I thought
I'll get the thumbnail updated, Craig. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Triple T came open, Hans. So anyway, thanks everybody. I do appreciate the congrats. Maybe I'll do a 3,000 subscriber celebratory stream. Yeah, and thank you for that, Man of Action, and yeah, JLS Comics, another great channel to check out. All right, well, that ended very, very well, actually. Now, I'm about to miss a super chat. Sorry, when I have too many things on my screen, my Chromebook likes to crap out on me. But McFly Toys, does that come up? Subscribe, great show. Thank you for the $2 super chat, much appreciated. And yeah, the chat's gone wonky on me, so if I'm missing any great comments, do let me know, because when I'm sharing a screen and I've got stuff in the background and the chat's flying, StreamYard likes to crap out on me. So anyway, all right, everybody, subscribe to Toy Anxiety YHS, Highly Articulated Ozstradamus Toyz. Hit the like or dislike button on the way out. It's all engagement anyway. So feel the hate, says Lord Sidious, and we shall end the stream right there. Thanks everyone for joining, and catch the replay if you didn't get a chance. Have a good one.
bye everyone.
See you.